What does a gym owner talk about with a mentor? Feelings, the big game, perhaps? I'm Mike Warkington, and this is Run a Profitable Gym. And today you're going to find out exactly how a call with a mentor goes and why it's so helpful. If you've ever wondered what one-on-one mentorship is all about, you'll find out today, but you won't find out from me. With me today is Nate Boley. He is the owner of Strength Warehouse in Bend, Oregon. In our private Facebook group, Nate's been posting all kinds of great bright spots like this one. We are on top of our game when it comes to taking action. As we all know, action is the only thing that gets results. So Nate's here to explain what he gets out of his talks with his mentor, how his mentor helps him take action, and how he grows his gym. So Nate, welcome from Oregon. How you doing today?
Mike, thanks a lot for having me on the show. I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day here in Bend.
I'm sure I'm on the verge of a snowstorm that's going to start as soon as this podcast ends. So we'll try and get through it before it comes down.
Nice. We had a little snowstorm and then it became like perfect blue skies with cold snow on the ground. So it was just awesome.
I'm going to drop in at your gym tomorrow then. Let's start with the result. I like to ask the big questions, get right to the meat of the bone right away. After a call with a mentor, how do you feel and what do you do when that ends?
Yeah, that's a great question. So depending on what's going on in the call, I can feel anywhere from just like super inspired to maybe a little bit overwhelmed. And this last call that I had, I was a little uncomfortable, and I'll kind of go into a little bit more of that stuff. But basically, the biggest thing that I like to take away from this question is I just feel like there's somebody that has my back and that's going to hold me accountable to the things that we talked about, that the action items that we've got.
So action items are a big deal. So you leave a call and you've got stuff to do, homework, as it were.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So let's dig in a little bit to what you said there. So talk to me about like some of the feelings that you have there, saying, okay, overwhelmed. So what's going on there, and how does a mentor help you work through that?
Yeah. So basically, like the first one, well, some of the calls we've had, feeling overwhelmed is like a lot of things to do in a short period of time to get them all done. So, they try not to overwhelm you too much. They go, okay, if this is too much, I can set these action items into like we need to take care of this first, second, third, fourth. But sometimes you can leave the call just being like, oh no, I've got a bunch of things to do on top of everything else that I'm supposed to do. Right. So as we know, being a gym owner, you do a lot of things. And then they add that on top of it.
Would it be accurate to say that that's challenged? You feel challenged?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So here's the question, because some people listening will say, okay, so if I feel overwhelmed already, am I going to feel more overwhelmed after a call? Let me ask you this. Is it a specific list of things that you need to work on, or is it just this giant pile of jumbled stuff where you kind of have to figure it out on your own? Where do you go from there?
Yeah, totally. So it's actually a very formulated like action plan of the things that we need to take care of. And specifically the mentor I have right now, we call them the Nate blinders. So I don't focus on anything else except for what we've listed out in the order that we've listed them out in. So we try not to get super overwhelmed, just like one step at a time. And if we are overwhelmed, like I said, they can take those steps and put them into categories like we need to take care of this one first, this one second. And then if they have, any other questions or whatever, we can always email them or message them or whatever.
Who's your current mentor? Who are you working with right now?
I'm going to mess her name up because I always do it. Taryn.
Yep. We got you.
Yeah.
So this is great. So she works specifically with you, and she's got Nate blinders for you. So I'm guessing you're a guy that tends to, much like me, are you a person who tends to just like look at all the stuff you could do and just get frazzled and kind of spin the tires a little bit?
Yes. Yep. That's definitely like paralysis by analysis type thing. You look at the big picture and then you can't take any action because you have no real way you don't know which way to go.
So how does she help you? You said she gives you a plan. How does she help you because there's a million things that you could do as a gym owner, right? You've got you could work on your marketing. You could work on your improve your coaches. You could hire a general manager. You could do your retention, a billion things that you could do. How does she figure out exactly what Nate needs to work on today, this month?
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, she really is a data-driven mentor, which is I'm totally a data-driven person as well. So she looks at the data and through the metrics that we provided them, and then we talk through like what's going on. Like currently, this last month we had a lot of cancellations going on and a lot of no sweats going on. So she, basically, she uses the data to really hone in on the exact items that we should take care of in the next 30 days.
So looking at your numbers, so it's based around metrics, and you enter those monthly. Are you a guy who does that religiously for the 2Brain app?
I have mine done on the first of every single month.
Okay. Because I know some people don't do that, and it challenges the mentors because we are based on metrics, right? If we don't know what the metrics are, we can't figure things out. So she looks at what you've got going on, figures out which areas you need to work on, and then gives you a plan based on exactly where your greatest challenges or opportunities are.
Absolutely.
Okay. So do you ever bring problems to her? And sometimes it's like, holy crap, I am just freaking out here about something. Do you do that? Or is it always the other way around with metrics and figuring it out?
So, currently we've had a couple different mentors. And one I remember specifically, we were seeming to be like losing a bunch of clients right away. And I was freaking out. And so we just message our mentor and said, hey, can we move our mentor call up because we have a pressing issue that needs to be needs to be taken care of right now. And they said, yes, here's my schedule, my link to schedule. And then right away, we didn't even go into anything else. It's like, what's on your mind? I was like, this is a problem. I don't even remember what it was. That's how significant it was, right? Sometimes it was solved. Yes, it was solved right away. But yeah, I was like, this is my problem. I'm freaking out about it. And then they just go, okay, hold on, step back. Let's look at the big picture. You're not going to go bankrupt overnight. Let's find out where the hole is, or the procedure breakdowns, or what's going on. And we worked through it for sure.
Okay. So it's a combination of having the mentor analyze data and say, here are some things that we want to work on, or things that we could do, big opportunities, or things where you're lagging behind, like say retention isn't great. We want to focus on that to grow the business. In other cases, you're bringing problems in and saying, hey, I've got this thing I'm freaking out about, or it's just like, this is bugging me. And then you get a plan, right?
Sure. Yep.
When that plan, so after a call, what happens then? So you said you feel like, okay, I got some stuff to do in addition to all the other, things going on in my business.
Yeah.
But why do you choose to take action on those things when you could work on all the other stuff that's going on?
Well, just because, probably I don't know. So in my, fitness history and business history, I've always just kind of done it my own way. And so when I joined 2Brain, I sat down with my wife, because my wife and I are both running the gym, and we just looked at each other and we're like, we're going to do exactly what they tell us to do. And that is it. And that has worked. Yeah. It has worked. We were literally on the verge of closing the gym before we started with 2Brain. And we were about 1 month away from locking the door up. And then we made, and it wasn't because we were like not making any money. It was just because it was so stressful. And I was both working a full-time career and coaching and taking care of our 2 daughters. And of course my wife was doing a lot of that as well, but we were just like, we've had our hands up. We don't know what to do. And so, yeah.
So tell me about those early stages. What happened? How did you go from like a month being, 30 days away from closing your gym to where you are now and saying things have turned around? How did you do that? Like, how did a mentor help you do that?
So basically our first mentor, we went through the on-ramp process, or the ramp up process.
Yep.
And, it wasn't like we weren't in financial dire need to close, but it was like, it wasn't making any money. It was just sustaining.
And it's taking up your time, right?
It was taking up our time. And I was just like literally working from 5 a.m. in the morning till 9 at night.
Burnout. Yeah.
I was so burned out. And I was just like, we've done this for 3 years. We're in the, actually we started post-COVID, I guess, February of 21. But so we basically just set up a time, he's like, we had no policies and procedures, no SOPs. We had nothing. We had no structure of the gym at all. And so that's where we basically started out. And then once we got those, it just kind of snowball effect. And then we're like, okay, now we can hire our first coach. And then it just snowballed from there. Just having that foundation you could actually build upon. And if we didn't have the foundation, it was like building on quicksand, because nobody knew what was going on.
So listeners, Ramp Up is the introductory mentorship program, and it is a targeted program that is designed to get your business in tip-top shape with foundations, exactly what Nate said, roles, responsibilities, procedures, and so forth. You're going to put out a few fires, but there is a curriculum you can move through quite quickly. A lot of people do that and find that on the other side, they add a ton of revenue to the business. And then after that, you can enter into the growth stage. The growth stage is less of a curriculum. It's got a big giant toolkit where a mentor will look specifically at your exact metrics, figure out where your opportunities and challenges are, talk to you about your problems, and then prescribe targeted tools from that toolkit that you can use to take action between calls. So you're in that stage now, Nate. So you're working on what is something you talked about with your mentor on your last call? What are you working on right now?
So currently right now we are working on retention
Yep,
and
it's a big one.
figuring out, yeah, it's a big one. We've had a bunch of people. We worked on the previous one. We worked on advertising and that kind of stuff. And we got just a ton of new leads and a ton of new members. And
Beauty.
then they started falling off. And so we're figuring out, at what points are these members leaving, and what can we do to implement new touch points and systems to try to prohibit that, or curtail that a little bit. And the next one is the next action item really is mentoring our staff to be able to have them do more and be better.
So what stuff in the toolkit has Taryn pointed you towards? Are there any resources that you're working through in there?
Yeah, actually, so our last meeting, we worked on the annual plan. So we're really digging deep into that, and I'm making a bunch of spreadsheets and stuff like that, which I'm not super good at either. So now I'm learning a new skill set, and really diving deep into like how do we know, or how can we plan for the revenue that we want in our gym throughout the year. And that really, you have to have a plan. If you are trying to drive to Chicago and you just get in your car and start going down the road versus having your Google Maps up, how fast are you going to get there if you don't have the map?
So. I literally put Chicago in Google Maps this year for the Two Brain Summit, and I'll do it again next year. So if you're listening, guys, and you are heading to Chicago, make sure you program that in properly. You'll end up in the wrong spot. I'd hope to see all you guys there at the summit. 2023 is going to be an amazing one. So we have this huge pile of stuff. Like no one except for Chris Cooper himself knows exactly what is in the toolkit, because there's just piles of it's all over the place. And so the mentors, figure out where it is and so forth. The idea is that every possible resource that a gym owner could need is in there. But if we dump all of them on you, it would be exactly what Nate said, total and complete overwhelm, and you would not get anything done. So what the idea is targeted stuff where the mentor figures out exactly what you need right now. And it's a one-on-one conversation. You said, Nate, that you've worked with different mentors through your process with Two Brain. Talk to me about some of the different styles. Maybe compare Taryn to your previous mentor.
Yeah. So my previous mentor was great. We actually didn't pick him. One of our mentors had left for, I guess, some medical leave or something like that. So we got put onto his plate. Yep. And we had his approach. We didn't get a ton of different calls with him. There were some scheduling issues and stuff, but he was super great at like getting me to think about my mindset and like think about different things differently.
Yep.
And he was really good about that. And he also gave me a lot of different, Megan and I, some books to read that were going to help us just like have that. He worked with us a lot on sales, and he also worked with us a lot on creating a dream team staff, which I have now an onboarding process from that he helped me build that is working very well.
Yeah. So the idea, again, we have this whole team of mentors, which you can work with different ones, and there are different specialists in different areas. It helps to have a different perspective from time to time. At our gym, my wife handles all of the business and so forth. She's worked with 4 or 5 different mentors. The reason we're working with our current one, Ashley Mack, is that he knows online business pretty well. And he's helping us really well dig through that stuff, because he does a similar thing. Previously, we've worked with other people who have had different areas of specialty. And there are times when our mentor will say, I want you to book a call with this person because he or she has this special skill that you're gonna get some benefit from. So it's like having a new PT session with a different trainer once in a while. Between calls. Well, go ahead.
We're actually doing that currently. We're working with not only Taryn, but like 4 other mentors in specific areas that we want to grow in. So just like you said, it's like a small skill session, 1-hour coaching thing, and they provide you with, emails and email support and stuff like that. So that's been absolutely huge.
You anticipated my next question. It was going to be, what happens between calls? Are you on your own, lost in the wilderness, being overwhelmed for 30 days?
No, definitely not. Never. No. So, most of the time we email back and forth. Sometimes a mentor will give you access to like their cell phone or something, but that's not always. I try not to like overuse that,
Yeah.
So unless it's like an extreme emergency, I'm like, please read my email right away. But yeah, you just email them. Like, currently we got through one of the, action items
Mhm.
for the next 30 days. And I just sent it over to Taryn and I said, hey, can you take a look at this and make sure that I'm at least on the right track, so we don't have to go 30 days before we can revisit that same thing. And she's more than happy to look at it. And, but yeah, if there's anything that needs to be taken care of right away, you can just email them and they'll get back to you with some type of action plan, or maybe they just need to calm you down and tell you to put on your Nate blinders. Just continue to do what you're doing.
Yeah, just take your earphones, head to them, put them over your eyes, and you're good then.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
How valuable is that hour to you? Do you look forward to it? Is it something that like, you're like, wow, I'm going to make some progress today?
Absolutely, man. I can't even imagine like going back and not having it. Like, we look forward to it. I get fired up just going into the week, knowing that that call is going to happen, and like all the cool things that we're going to accomplish after the next call. So I would say it's like, yeah, it's probably the best day of the month for sure.
Would you take as much action as you're taking right now without the accountability of someone checking in on you and giving you tasks?
Nope, I definitely would not.
Yeah, me neither.
I would not. Yeah, that's why I also hired myself a fitness coach, because I think coaches need coaches, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't do the stuff I need to do mobility wise or whatever. And it's the same thing with your gym. Like, you could easily forget or just put it away because you got something more pressing right away. And a lot of times it's like, hey, those little pressing things will still be here, but you have to do the stuff that you don't want to do to grow forward.
Do you feel like the mentorship is tailored toward exactly your business? And this is a question I ask because a lot of people say, oh, all gyms are the same or whatever, or my gym's different. Some people will think it's the special snowflake and so forth. Do you feel like the mentorship is tailored to exactly what you need at the time?
So I think the mentorship program as a whole is just catered to like all different types of specialty type gyms. I think when you really start working with individual mentors, the first like call is like, hey, what do you guys do? What are you about? And how do you guys run your business? And they try to learn like the no sweat intro process, right? It's like they try
Right.
to get to know you and like what you're about and what you're really needing, so then it can be catered more towards you. I think if that answers your question correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a learning curve there for sure. Because like,
Yeah,
for example, some gyms will come in to ramp up and they're very new, right? So there's
sure.
someone who's like 3 months, gym owner of 3 months, may have no systems, may have no procedures, may have no experience. And it's kind of a different path than say a gym owner who comes in after 8 years and 12 staff members in 2 locations or something like that.
Yeah,
That second gym owner may still have exactly the same problems sometimes, but you get the idea. So it's a little bit different. So you're right, feeling out process, and then making sure there's a giant foundation for this base of the pyramid, and then targeted sniping here and there and picking like retention this month, client acquisition next month,
yep,
sales and marketing, all that kind of stuff.
yep,
What's
yep,
next for you? What are you going to work on? So you said retention is the big deal right now. Have you
yep.
got some notes on a pad there for the call, like coming up in however many days it is that you're going to throw at Taryn next?
Yeah, so I was just going to say that my wife and I both are tasked to do different things. So that's another thing that a mentor can do, is not only like, so if you have a single gym owner versus like double, like my wife and I are 2 gym owners basically, but coming up, we have notepads in our phone. And if something comes up during the month that's not pressing, we just write it down. We want to talk about this next time. So we go into our hour with the maximum ROI on it. It's not like, hey, what's going on? Oh yeah, I forgot about that thing that I thought about 3 weeks ago or whatever. We have the actual list that we want to talk about. And most of the time we get through all of it. This last time we didn't, because we found one that was really pressing.
Mm.
And we're just like, okay, we're going to put the blinders on. We're going to just attack this at least until you get that task done. And then we can revisit the other stuff.
Do you feel like it's funny because some people they need blinders exactly like that. Other people need a kick in the pants to say like, do something, like fire it up, motivation, different styles for different people. Is it always for you? Is it always like a focusing kind of thing? Or do you ever need that motivation kick in the pants? Or what else do you need from a mentor that's maybe not just focus?
Yeah, definitely. I do. I definitely need motivation, and accountability, I think, is my biggest problem. Because like I said, things start going on. I'm in here doing something on the computer, and maybe a staff employee comes in and starts talking to me or something like that. I got to get this done. So I think those are the biggest things, like, the accountability, the motivation to keep going. And then the focus part is fairly recent. just because I'm starting to get to the point where I feel like I'm really close to the tinker level. And so I'm starting to look at different things, and like all of a sudden now I'm in a business group and we're talking about doing an Airbnb and we're talking about doing this. And I'm like, okay, now I need my focusers on again because there's too many, it's too general, too broad.
That's great. I didn't actually realize that you were that close to the tinker level, which for listeners, that is when you've got a stable business and you might be looking to do something else. And that could be expand that business to a second location. It could be get into something completely different, like start a beverage company. We have a guy who's doing that. You could start a distillery. Someone else is doing that. You could rent Airbnbs. You could get into crypto investing, all these other things. We have a group that will help you do that. Most of them are gym owners. Not all of them are. All of them are entrepreneurs who are willing to support each other. And it's led by Chris Cooper, Jeff Smith, and a lot of experts from outside the fitness industry. So you've got the whole progression here. You've got ramp up, growth, and tinker. The whole thing is tailored mentorship one-on-one at every stage. And in that tinker group, you've got the freedom and finance to do in-person meetups regularly, hang out with some cool people in a room full of people and learn about upper level entrepreneur stuff. Is that an aspiration of yours, Nate?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's been, since we got out of the ramp up program into the growth, and I knew there was tinker because I read the book, so I knew that was a level. But once I got kind of into probably 3 or 4 months into growth, we really started to just take off, and I was like, that's the goal right there. So that's the next step for me, I think. And I've already had a discovery call, and they're both with Jeff and Chris, and they're both just like, yeah, man, you're there. So if you want to do it, go for it. And if you don't, you got to think about it. That's fine too.
So it's a cool story. So you told me at the beginning, 30 days away from shutting down your gym, leaving the fitness industry and doing whatever else. And, obviously not being able to serve the people that you serve now, to being at the stage where your gym is almost at that level where you can now start thinking about what else can I do? Pretty cool. Hey?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm super stoked.
What do you think? I'll ask you to take the Nate blinders off for my last question. What do you think that next thing might be when you're in the Tinker program? What do you think you're looking at?
Yeah, so currently right now, I'd really like to do some Airbnb type stuff, or we also would really love to own our own, commercial building for our gym. And so those are the two things that I'm trying to I'd love to do, but I don't want to do too much, if that makes sense. But those two things are definitely in our scope.
We'll put the blinders back on now. If you finish off your last growth work, and then we'll head on to Tinker and we'll find out where we'll catch up with you again. Nate, thanks so much for sharing your story. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me on.
When Nate runs his Airbnb in Oregon, you should be sure to book a night there and visit the place. That was Nate Boley, and this is Run a Profitable Gym. That is what we teach you how to do on this podcast. So please subscribe on the way out. I'm your host, Mike Workington. We're going to help you out here. Hit subscribe.